All right, Weston, thank you, man, so much for coming on. And I just want to get into your runs, your recent run. You're 6-1 since the pandemic started. That's a very good run in MMA. What are your overall thoughts on how you've been performing during that extended run?
Yeah, during that time, I changed camps, and so let me get that better. I changed camps. I went to there we go. Went to Upstate Karate with Wonderboy, and we've had 7 fights. One thing that kind of helped was I work in software, and so I started my own software company, live streaming fights for other promotions. So I was able to like leverage that and be like, hey, you can't like do full capacity shows. I can do your live stream for free if you put me on your card, or I could give you a discounted rate, and it'll be similar service to what Fight TV is doing, but they're charging 50%, whereas I'm going to charge significantly less than that. And so that is one thing that really helped me get a lot of fights really quickly. And in terms of performance, is working with all the coaches up here at Upstate Karate, we've been able to leverage my reach. We've been able to like maximize my striking, and it's actually allowed me to use my jiu-jitsu a lot more, because guys don't want to mess with me on the feet, so they take sloppy takedowns. And I've been getting a lot of quick chokes lately because guys take sloppy takedowns to avoid me striking with them.
Yeah. Well, it's all first round finishes. You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty damn good run.
Yeah, I think the longest fight was 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned like the tweaks and the things that you're working on with your coaches. Were there any like frustrations? You know what I mean? Sometimes when you're learning something new, it doesn't come to you right away.
Yeah, so Coach T is like a perfectionist, and so it brought me back to like my very first coach, where it was like, all right, do it again. It's still bad. Do it again. And you're like, I'm doing it exactly how you're saying I'm doing it. And so like a lot of the tools that we've implemented, especially my striking, it's been like over and over and over again. And even now we'll do pad work, and he'll still like tell me I mess up. And I'm like, man, I've done like 100,000 reps of this particular technique, and I'm still messing it up, and so but it's because he expects, perfection. And in the training room, if you can be perfect in the training room during the fight, even if you're not perfect, you'll still perform, better than your opponent, if you can have perfection in the training room, or at least
Definitely.
close to perfection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes complete sense because, I guess in MMA, what I've noticed is like sometimes fighters will neglect certain aspects because they're not as good in that
Yeah.
department, and then just work on what they enjoy and what they're good at, which I guess in this game right now, you can't do that anymore.
No, you really can't. Like, everybody's so well rounded nowadays. You have to really do. You don't necessarily have to do like everything, but you have to cover all the basis of a fight. So you have to work on that striking at distance. You have to work at that clinch work, and that striking within within a box. You've got to work off the cage. You've got to work, grappling out in the open. It doesn't necessarily have to be wrestling, but you have to work in all those different distances and ranges. Now, whatever martial art you want to use to help you, and that works for you, I tell guys all the time, because I help coach as well. I tell guys all the time, like, you don't have to be a wrestler, but you have to know like how the wrestlers are working in this range, and how jiu-jitsu guys are working in this range. Like, Charles Oliveira is killing it right now, and he's not a wrestler, but he's messing up those wrestlers because he knows how to work in their range.
Yeah, definitely. And going to your fight, XMMA, you have had 2 fights with them and 2 finishes, 2 great performances. How is it working with that promotion?
Man, honestly, I've worked for a lot of promotions on the regional scene. I've fought for Bellator once, LFA a few times, um, And I gotta say, XMMA in terms of like like one of those upper division regional shows, they're probably the best in terms of how they treat the fighters. They make it the most like a big show. They bring you out early. They put you up in a nice hotel. They give you all the things that you need fight week. And then fight night is extremely easy. The way that they're operating and things like that. Like I couldn't ask for a better promotion and just working with them in general. They're fantastic. When it comes time to negotiate for a fight and things like that, like they've been awesome. And they're really trying to build guys. It's whether they're an ex UFC vet, ex Bellator vet, or a prospect. They're trying to help those guys, make it back to that next level. It's not like they're trying to keep you exclusive to XMMA. They're truly, trying to build different prospects or give people a second chance, or to continue on their career. And they've done a fantastic job so far. You've seen how many big name people have been in the show, and some have gone to bigger promotions. And some are still fighting for them. I think now that Bochniak signed with PFL, I think after this next one, I'll have the most fights with XMMA at
Nice.
3.
Nice. And Keith Lee is your opponent, man. When they initially offered you him, what were your thoughts? Because I think this is a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think Keith Lee's a super favorable matchup. I think I've got him on the size. I've got him on the reach. He's coming up to 45, which I always like. Granted, I fought at 35 as well. I always like, when guys test a new weight class. It either means that, that the weight cut was either getting hard and they could perform really well, or they're just lazy and they move up. Like during COVID, I was fighting at 55, 70. I even fought once at 85. Mostly because I just didn't want to cut weight. So
Yeah.
I get it. Keep coming up. He fought my teammate, John Sweeney. John Sweeney beat him. So we kind of already, know what he likes to do and what his style is. And I think I match up really nice. I think on the feet, I've got the advantage. I think he'll try to wrestle me just like everybody else, and he'll be thoroughly surprised at my ground game.
Do you see just a wrestler in him, or do you see someone that's also pretty dangerous on the feet?
From what I've seen, like he's not like a heavy hitter. He likes to blitz in and come in on angles, and I like to as well. So I think on the feet it'll be kind of a puzzle of who can get their footwork off, cleaner and crisper. But I like those technical strikers. Those are the guys that I enjoy the most. I just haven't gotten to fight those type of guys in a really long time.
Yeah. Lee, he's on back-to-back losses, but he fought, Rafael Stotts and Jornel Lugo, which is really solid competition. When you go back and watch those fights, what do you take away?
It's hard to judge because those fights were a year or two ago, both of them, and he's a young kid, so he two things could have happened. He could have gotten a lot better, or he could have stayed the same. So it's really hard to say. I know that like he's really putting a lot of work in the social media game and doing the whole TikTok and YouTube thing, which if that could take away your focus as well. He's got a huge following right now on TikTok. And most of his stuff's not MMA related. So it seems like his focus hasn't been in MMA. But who knows? I could be wrong. I expect the best version of him, but I also, and what everybody here knows is I'm at that level, if not surpass that level. and I'm a lot bigger than Rufyon Stotts. I'm a lot bigger than Journal Logo. Like I'm a lot bigger than all those Bellator guys that he's fought, and I've been in the same circle as some of those guys, and I can tell you I'm on that level.
Lee, he's never lost 3 in a row. Are you expected to perform against him?
Man, I think it's going to be one of my best performances yet. Like confidence wise, I'm at an all-time high. The last kid I beat was supposed to be some killer, and I put him out really quickly. And I think the kid I fought for the last XMMA show is a very similar style to Keith Lee. I don't really take heed into, oh, he's never lost 3 in a row. You know, anything can happen, especially if your concentration isn't there in the sport. You know, anything can happen. And I hope he's been focused. I hope he's been, you know, trying to get better and trying to improve. But we'll see what happens. You know, I fully expect that he'll be 0-3 in his last 3.
What do you think would come from the victory over Keith Lee? Do you feel like, okay, maybe I continue with XMMA, maybe fight for the title? Am I sitting back and waiting for, you know, the UFC? What are your expectations?
So if I don't get a call to UFC or Contender Series, you know, then definitely I'm going to keep riding with XMMA. That'd put me at 3-0 with the promotion. I'd hope that we could start talking, you know, 145 title, you know, and working my way, you know, through them and building myself up on their show. But yeah, definitely. I mean, my goal has always been the UFC. Like I was offered an alternate spot for the PFL. I turned it down because all I really want is to prove to myself and all the doubters from when I was a kid in high school and middle school that I could fight in the UFC.
One last question, man. Who do you want to see Stephen Thompson fight? Shavkat, Masvidal, Diaz? Like, what's the matchup that you really like that you want to see Thompson in?
So, you know, I talked to Coach T and Wonderboy and you know, the whole crew. We talk about it a lot. So I was the one who suggested Kevin Holland. That was one of my suggestions, was Kevin Holland. I trained with Kevin. I've trained with Wonderboy. I've you know, trained with both of them. That's a fun fight, I think. I don't think Kevin would take it to the ground unless he's thoroughly getting beat. Then he would look to get to the ground. But Wonderboy is also a lot harder to take to the ground than most people realize. I mean, we haven't seen it recently. Outside of that, we've seen Masvidal before, and we saw, you know, the butt whooping that Masvidal got. I would like either Robbie Lawler or Nick or Nate.
All right, those are good options, man. Kevin Holland, actually, that's not a bad fight. I like that suggestion.
Yeah, or
Anyway,
the other fight I think would be really exciting and you know, have significance in the welterweight division is Michel Pereira.
oh yeah,
And that fight would be a banger because you got Michel Pereira, who's super wild and unorthodox. You got Wonderboy, who's not wild, but very unorthodox striker as well. So you'd have a really high octane striking battle.
yeah, and Michelle will go forward. Which one?
Yeah, Michel's gonna go forward. Like there's no, and sometimes with Wonderboy you get these strikers who stop coming forward and they just kind of like sit back, like you had Rory McDonald. But like Pereira, it doesn't matter if he's fighting, you know, heavy-handed banger or if he's fighting a super technical guy. He's going to come forward and he's going to press the action, and he's not looking to go to the ground. So I think Pereira or Holland are my two, and those are the two that Wonderboy's been shouting out a lot too. So hopefully, you know, I was pressing for him. The other one I pressed for was Dustin Poirier. I wanted him to do try to get Dustin Poirier as well.
Yeah, Wonderboy has a lot of options, but actually the Michelle Pereira one, that one I would love to see.
Yeah, I want to see that on the UFC Salt Lake card. And then I'm hoping that fingers crossed, I could get on that card because that's where, you know, I went to college out there and everything. So if I could get on the Salt Lake card, that's the goal.
Yeah,
with Wonderboy.
With the UFC, it's a funny thing. Sometimes they'll put teammates on the same card, especially like someone like Wonderboy, and then maybe someone debuting from their camp. So I can see it happening, man. But before that happens, all you gotta do is take care of business, man. July 23rd, MMA 5, Westin. Appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, man.